out there in, I guess, internet land it would be, not television land. But in any event, it's another week of Shore Conference football talk here on the Shore Sports Network. Week 8 is upon us, and we're going to talk about that and a lot more. It's the Varsity Link Coaches Corner. Watch it on shoresportsnetwork.com and the Shore Sports Network app. Bob Batters here with Ed Sarluca, Steve Meyer behind the camera, Tom Tremblay, our engineer. Filling, as always, for Kevin Williams. Quick shout-out to Kevin. Home resting.
Let's give a little update
feeling
for
better.
Kevin, okay? We heard from him today.
We did. Kevin had some back surgeries. Back's been bothering him for a while, so everything went well. So he's recovering and hoping to be on a show with us again before the end of the year. So good news surrounding that. He was hurting for a while, but on the road to recovery, and he'll be feeling well sooner than later, we hope.
Always more comfortable when you're out of the hospital and home, in your own bed.
I'd say so.
Your own food, your own meals. Now Jane's got to start cooking for him.
We'll get on to the football before he texts us and tells us to stop talking about it.
Exactly.
As I said, Week 8 is here, and that brings us to the Shore Conference postseason. Now, not the pod format that we thought we would have, and we talked about that last week, but it's the postseason games, and those are coming up this week. We'll talk about them later on in the show. Again, a lot to talk about with last week. Go over Week 7, a big matchup between the top two teams in the Shore, and that result has us with the new number 1 in the Jeep Store Shore Sports Network Top 10. So we'll get to that. Two teams from Ocean County tonight will be joined by Southern Regional and Lacey. From the Rams will be head coach Chuck Donahue and senior fullback and defensive end Nate Committee. And from the Lacey Lions, head coach Lou Versillo and their fullback and also linebacker Scott Stevens. So a couple of two-way standouts and two of the winningest coaches, not just in the Shore but in the state. So a lot of good stuff to talk about.
Back-to-back Hall of Fame coaches.
Yes. Yeah, it's been a pretty good run for
last week. It was Steve Antonucci and
Danny
George from Long Branch. This week, Lou Versillo and Chuck Donahue, excuse me. You can't ask for better than that. No, pretty hard to follow that up.
Hard to keep that streak up. There's only so many of them. But back to Week 7 as we recap last week, and the big one, of course, was then number 2 Red Bank Catholic going into Borden Stadium and coming away with a 21-14 victory over Rumson Fairhaven. That's a huge rivalry game. It was the number 1 versus number 2 in the Shore. I was there covering the game. Ed, you were there for our block game day countdown along with Steve. And, there was, at least 4,000 people there. The stands were packed. I may have had to park in Fairhaven. How far? I had to go through the neighborhoods. It became a tour of the local streets trying to find a spot. And that's what you want from that kind of game. The atmosphere was fantastic. And the game reflected that on the field. A very close game. Red Bank Catholic was in control most of it, but, Rumson did not back down and made it close and made Red Bank Catholic earn it until the end. But it was the Casey's coming away with the 1 touchdown win. They moved to 7-0, and they're the new number 1 team in the Shorehead.
Yeah, RBC has had Rumson's number over the last few years. I think it was, 2018 Rumson had won opening day, I believe.
It was 2019, 2 years ago.
Yeah, and other than that, it was like 10 out of 11 or so on. But, RBC, I thought, to be honest, I thought RBC was the better team last Friday night. They tried to give it away in the last quarter by fumbling the ball to Rumson. Rumson just couldn't put anything really back-to-back there. And RBC, good football team, and, it won't get any easier for both of these teams now as the Shore Conference in their postseason structure. As you mentioned, they're not calling it pods, but they gave everybody even competitive games, which will do everything to help them towards the state playoffs.
Yes, challenging games for everyone coming up, and fair games, and that's what everyone wanted. So some good ones coming up around the corner. It's more on the Rumson win. Very impressive what they did on the ground. Ran for 231 yards. And that's on a Rumson defense that is just regarded as being excellent. Everyone knows that. Came into the game allowing the Shore Conference low 3.8 points per game. Sabina Portella, their outstanding junior running back, $144 on the ground and a touchdown. Their sophomore Torrin Harmon, 76 yards and a long touchdown. And you have to give credit to that offensive line. They're big and physical up front, and they did a really good job because both Portello and Harmon and even Rajon Cooper, they were able to pick their hole, make one cut, get upfield, and they were getting chunk yardage on a lot of plays, and it started to pile up pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's what I was impressed the most with RBC, their speed. Their speed, and once they broke the line of scrimmage to get into the second level, I'll tell you, quite a few long runs, as you said, especially by Portello, who had an outstanding game, was our player of the game on the Block Game Day Countdown show, and certainly deserved it.
Staying with this game a little bit because it was number 2 versus number 1, talking to Red Bank Catholic head coach Mike Lang after the game, we talked about their offensive strategy, and he said on film what stood out was Rumson's team speed, and especially their senior linebackers, John Lista and Ryan McKay, and how quick they were sideline to sideline. He said, how do you neutralize that? You run right at them, and that's exactly what they did. Kind of took away that speed on the edge. And you saw late in the game, that fumble you're talking about, RBC tried to bounce and run to the outside, and Lista just chased the play down, stripped the ball loose, and Rumson was able to recover. So, and then on the other side, Red Bank Catholic's defense, extremely impressive. Rumson had less than 150 yards, ran for 25 yards. Rumson's touchdowns were more of an opportunistic
Mr. Bauman. When you talk about RBC's defense, you better talk about Mr. Bauman over there, the big, it seems strange wearing number 14 at that defensive end position, but a few sacks, tackles for losses, just joining his brother on dominating football games.
Yeah, that's Alex Bauman, their senior tight end and defensive end. 12 tackles. He had a sack, 3 tackles for loss. No huge numbers in the passing game, but that one 4th down catch he made, which
when they needed it.
I've watched the video. We have a picture of it where you can see the defensive back looks like he's the one running the route, and somehow he catches it, carries about 3 guys for a first down, 4th and 7.
Yeah, I thought the ball was maybe a little bit behind him, but tremendous catch and a huge play in that. I believe that was the first quarter, wasn't it?
It ended up being, that was the drive where Rumson stopped them with that goal line stand, but it helped set a tone early.
Yes, without a doubt.
So in that game, that Red Bank Catholic moves up to 1. Rumson just moves down to 2. You're not going to ding the Bulldogs too much.
No.
For a loss there. Elsewhere in the top 10, number 3 Donovan Catholic had no problem with Rawway, 42-0. 4th-ranked Middletown South was idle. They will be back. A little bit odd. We talked about that last week with Antonucci. 2 byes in 3 weeks, but they'll be rested for the biggest time of the year. 5th-ranked Wall, 31-17 over Lenape, pulled away in the 4th quarter. Matt Dollive, a big game, over $150 on the ground and 3 TDs. He had 6th-ranked Manalapan. That was on Saturday, a pretty convincing 39-7 win, over Freehold Borough. Number 7, Long Branch stays undefeated, 23-6 in a rivalry game of sorts with Ocean. Winless Ocean, but as Danny George said last week, they knew that was going to be a tough game. It's a rivalry. The Ocean kids aren't going to, be intimidated by Long Branch going in. If anything, they were going to say, hey, let's go knock these guys off. So Long Branch holding on for the win there. And then the game we'll talk about a lot more in the second half of our show. And that was number 9 Southern going on the road and earning a hard-fought 17-14 win over then number 8 Central. That's the Boyd Emirates rivalry game. Third straight win in the series.
Undefeated Central.
That's right. Handed the Golden Eagles their first loss. So a big win for Southern. Again, we'll talk about that in depth with Chuck Donahue and the committee coming up. And then finally, 10th-ranked Manasquan, really no problem on Saturday. 41-0 over Toms River East. Their junior quarterback, Brett Pattonhead, very impressive. 4 touchdowns through the air, another rushing touchdown. It's a different type of Manasquan offense than we've been used to seeing for what seems like forever. They're going to spread you out. They're going to throw the ball around. They have a lot of weapons, and they made it happen in that impressive win. So there's your top 10 results. A couple other big ones that, of course, we'll get to. Lacey, a nice comeback win, 27-21 over Colts Neck. Again, we'll talk more about that in depth. And Point Borough, the newest member of the Shore Sports Network top 10, coming in at number 9 this week. 49-6 over Monmouth Regional. I know Monmouth Regional's in that last division there, but still, it's a match of
division champion champs. Monmouth.
Yes, and who had played strong defense already. I think it was, now I want to go off my memory, doing the standings before. I think Monmouth had allowed 54 points all year going to that game, and Point Borough hung 49 on them. So the Panthers extremely impressive. They're running that flex bone option pretty much to perfection so far, Ed, and that'll be a fun one coming up this Friday night. Point Borough,
and the Block Game Day Live countdown show will be at Point Pleasant Borough to watch that Manasquan and Point Pleasant Borough. Remember, come on down to the Shore Sports Network SUV. It'll be located somewhere near the snack bar, right? Steve Meyer will be setting up there and have some forms to fill out. You have a chance to win dinner for 6, which includes a limo drive there and back at the Butcher Block in Long Branch, outstanding restaurant, which will be open sometime in December. So just all you got to do is fill out a form, no purchase necessary.
Yeah, even if you've never even heard of the Butcher
Butcher
Block,
Block.
A, look them up. B, fill that out because that's
Trust
dinner,
me,
dinner
it's
for
a
six
good dinner.
there. Yeah, is a good dinner, and it's a great value to get that for free. I'll just put it that way.
Let's say this. If you go before Christmas, you may still be full by the time you sit down for Christmas dinner.
That's true. Yeah, they don't skimp on stuff there.
No, they don't.
A few other really notable results. I mean, Holmdel 30-24 over Raritan. It's their 5th straight win in that Battle of the Border series there. Jackson Memorial off the Schneid 27-0 over Jackson Liberty. Here we go. I mentioned Point Bar. How about Neptune? And the Scarred Flyers were 0-3, did not look good really in any of their games. And now they got another win, 22-8 over Brick, and that's a big one. Brick was 4-2 coming in, and they played really well. So head coach Brian Duffy certainly has Neptune going in the right direction after the 0-3 start.
Yeah, that's the upset of the week right there. Brick going down to Neptune. Don't forget Middletown North and St. John Vianney.
That was the next one I was gonna
another
mention.
outstanding football game, won by Middletown North, who outstanding season so far. Were they 5-1?
5-1.
5-1 so far.
Only losses to one of our guests here tonight. Only losses to Lacey.
And they split that division, the Colonial.
The
Independence?
There you go.
The Independence
You
division.
said you'd get it by the end of the year.
I said by the end of the year I'll know the divisions.
We're still not all the way there
Do you think
yet.
Coach Versillo knows that he tied for the Independence Championship?
Yeah, he knows he tied for the division. I don't think he knows the
He
name
knows
of it.
the name
I
of
don't
it.
expect most people to know the actual names of divisions. I have to.
Because remember, next year they're going to change again. So
Yeah, hopefully they don't change too much, but we'll see. Back to that Middletown North game, out 24-21 was the win over St. John Vianney. Their senior quarterback, Tommy Giannone, career high in passing yards, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, game-winning touchdown pass to their senior tight end, Zach Seawright, with under a minute left. So that game went down to the wire. Lacey's was also decided in the final minute. A pretty fun Week 7, Ed.
Yeah,
I mean, you had big results. You had close games. You had games coming down to the wire. And we've talked about this a lot. You want parity in the sense where it's competitive every week. There's always going to be blowouts here and there, but they've been few and far between. The football's been great, and it's only going to get better because when you get into these postseason games, they're matched up to be evenly on purpose, and then obviously the NJSIAA playoffs are what they are. Those are always great.
exactly.
So.
Week 7 and 8 are going to be great down here in the Shore. I hope the weather, which has been absolutely fantastic every week of the season, I hope it holds true in Week 7 and 8. Week 7 looks like a good weekend coming up, and then we've got one more before the state tournament.
Yeah, I don't want to say anything that jinxes the weather, so I'm just not going to say anything.
All right.
With that, we will move on from Week 7, and coming up next, we'll talk to our first guests of the night. It's the Lacey Lions coming up next on the Varsity Link Coach's Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
One, two, three,
Back at the Office Restaurant and Lounge in Toms River for the Varsity Link Coach's Corner. Tonight's show and every show this entire season is sponsored by, of course, Varsity Link. What is Varsity Link, you might be asking? It's the Athletes Social Media Network. It's the first social media platform designed as a recruitment tool to help enhance an athlete's opportunity and a coach's recruitment process. Now, Varsity Link, it allows friends, family, and the football community a chance to be part of the action, as well as athletes and coaches post and interact on the platform. So to learn more or to join the community, head to www.varsitylink.com. And, of course, download the Varsity Link app on the App Store or the Google Play Store. Right now, delighted again to be joined by the Lacey Lions, Lacey head coach Lou Versillo to my right, and their outstanding senior two-way star and first-team All-Shore linebacker last year, Scott Stevens. So, guys, first of all, thanks a lot for taking the drive up and talking some football with us before a big game for you guys coming up Friday night.
Well, thank you for asking us to come.
Of course. Thank you.
Scott, I'll start with you first. Going back to last year, you were having a great year. You suffered a knee injury, had to miss, the final, what was it, 3 games, 4 games?
3 games, yeah.
So you come back this year, limited a little bit early on. How you feeling now as we're kind of into the, the later stages of the season, and obviously you've been able to work in more. I know you started playing mostly on offense. Seemed like you're starting to get back in your groove a little bit.
Yeah, I love going both ways. Obviously. All right. I love going both ways. I love trying to make big plays on both sides of the ball. Personally, I like offense a little bit better. And just what else do I have to say?
He's got. I love looking at his stats after the games at fullback because he gets the old Jerome Bettis stat line sometimes. 5 carries, 5 yards, 3 touchdowns, man. Give it to him on the goal line, and he'll get in.
2 first downs.
Right? Whatever you
Yeah.
got to do. Move those chains.
It's the short yards that count.
That's
exactly, especially inside the red zone there. Lou, 41 years, you've been doing this a long time. My first question, what fuels the fire come summertime?
I probably don't know what else to do.
There you go.
To be quite
That's an
honest with
honest answer.
I've been doing the same thing every day, all year round since 1970. So it's the same, except for my garden. I started the garden 10 years ago, and I've really enjoyed that.
I heard it's a good one.
It's a good one.
You need a hobby.
Yeah.
You need a hobby. It keeps you sane.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously, the teams that you have produced at Lacey, the championships that you have won at Lacey, the only coach that Lacey's had, correct? Which is quite a, something to say. You started the program and you continue to coach in the program. The thing I like best about your program is that so many of your old players come back and coach for you.
That's true. Well, it's something that you have to prepare for. I think that every coach has to deal with the problem of having injuries or people with COVID tracing, et cetera. I don't think it's unique to Lacey. What's unique, perhaps, in the division we're in or the competition we're in was we're pretty much 30 pounds less than everybody else that we're playing. They're pretty big people. They're very competitive, great coaches out there. So it really does come down to being tough. And the one thing that we try to be is tough. I don't know if we're tough all the time, but we try to be tough. And if we're tough and the kids give us a great heart, which they've been doing, then we have a shot. And if that's all we ask for. And so far we've been able to compete, with the people that we've been playing.
Lou, you have a quarterback who I believe is a 3-year starter in Noah Brunati, and obviously anytime you have experience at that position, their senior year, you expect some things out of them, and he's delivered. He's made some clutch plays as he did last weekend in the win over Colts Neck. Just how much has he meant to this whole thing? I mean, that growth that we saw from his sophomore year, where I think it was in a playoff game against Wall. He kind of showed what he had. And now here we are 3 years later, and he's playing like one of the better quarterbacks on the shore.
Well, he throws the ball real well. I mean, he even had a start in his freshman year, and then he got hurt. But they won that game, too. We won that game. But he's a very competitive kid. He works hard at the game. I think he's more like a shortstop throwing the first, the way he throws. But he's accurate, and he's been finding the mark. Thank God we have some receivers that can catch the ball, and it's been good.
got a pretty good quarterback coach in Warren Smith.
Well, I mean,
he's an ex-player.
You know, Warren was a gunslinger himself.
Yes,
we
he
used
was.
to call him gunslinger.
was.
You know, he liked to throw the ball deep all the time, and he broke all those records in Maine. And now he plays Arena League, and he doesn't stop. I think he plays softball, girls co-ed softball. You know,
Well,
men's
let's not
softball,
mention that one.
all that stuff.
He's playing in the Arena League. That's good
He's
enough.
competitive, is what you're saying.
You know, if the ball's rolled out in the court, he's playing against somebody. You know.
And speaking of those receivers you mentioned, a lot of depth there, and a lot of even numbers when you look at the stats. You know, Michael Abode, your senior, leads the way, but Matt McClung, who had the touchdown catch right there with him, Mike Roselle, Andrew Tobia. When you're able to have that kind of balance, and not just in the wide receiver core offensively, and I know you're an offense traditionally, you know, you're going to want to run the ball first, and you've done that. There's been games where Dominic Perone's had big games, but you guys have been able to be balanced. If you feel like you need to throw the ball or have to throw the ball, that's certainly been an option. How important is that, knowing that you can win either way because you've done that at times this season?
Well, I think that I've always been a coach to try to practice the passing game 50% of the day. For a long time, I've been like that ever since, let's say, the late 80s with Garrett Gordy and that kind of thing. Of course, his father was the AD and a former quarterback, so that was an incentive of mine to make sure we threw the ball. But, you know, I think we shoot for 50%, but we're around 30% in the pass game. And I've always been a run the ball kind of guy, you know, and play action. And I think in the Northeast you have to do that to be competitive, especially in the end of the season when it gets inclement, you know. So that's been my background, and I continue to be like that. I would deflate the ball, to be quite honest with you.
I always used to joke. I would say Coach Lou would run on first down, second down, third down, fourth down, fifth down. How many downs you give? We're running the ball. Eventually you get a first down, right? 3 yards of carry is a first down if you run it 4 times.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt about that.
Scott, one of your coaches, Coach Nanny, had his own medical problems over this summer. How much did you take out of that? Because you were coming back and he came back.
Coach Nanny, hip replacement. He's just that guy. He's always fighting. He's always getting loud. You know, he's always shoving the kids. You know, having a good time, of course.
Wait. No shoving.
But
he's discussing with the kids.
Discussing the kids. You know, he just gets into it. Like coaching football, that's his life. And,
Yes,
and I
it
think
is.
being able to come back to a full group of kids and coming back with me, I went to physical therapy with him. NovaCare.
There you go.
You know, that's just it breathes some life into him, the football.
You know, Lacey is one of the traditional programs in the Shore when we talk about you know, teams that have won a lot. You know, 4 sectional championships in the program history. Obviously, one coach in the whole program history. So it has a certain identity, and something you talked about before, an identity of playing physical, toughness. You know, running the ball, as Coach just said. When you're growing up in Lacey, and you're thinking about the days you're going to play varsity football, what does that mean in town to one day, you know, hope to be a part of the varsity team?
It's just a pride and tradition. You know, my dad played for Lacey, for Coach V. My uncle played for Coach V, for Lacey. It's just pride, tradition, and excellence. It's really what it is.
There's a lot of that, isn't there? I mean, if you had a list somewhere of how many parents and their kids and uncles and families that you've coached, it's great. It's up there. You know, how much pride do you take in that? Where
If you go 41 years, it's going to happen. You know, so we do have a pretty good number of people right now that have played, that are kids of parents that have played for me. Yeah, maybe a good 9 have come through so far, 9 or 10.
it's impressive.
Do we still list the big running back who took it to Princeton and then to the NFL as that top guy? I know you don't like to single out one another, but is Keith Elias, you know, one of your pride and joys?
Well, of course, they're all my pride and joys, to be honest with you. Whether they start or don't start, but Keith, he made the NFL. He
Can't do much better than that, right?
He still works for the NFL.
Yep.
You know, it's pretty lofty kind of thing. And you know, I've had a few people that got into the league from the other school, Red Bank. and a couple got tryouts from Lacey, but Keith was the one that made it.
A couple more before we have to let you guys go, unfortunately. But, Coach, I have to ask you, and I know you didn't want to make a big deal out of it, but, first game of the year, you guys beat Brick 28-14, your 300th career win. I mean, like, that's a huge number, 300 career wins. The only other coach in shore competition to do that is Warren Wolf. So that's a tremendous honor. Now that you've had some time to maybe think about and reflect on that, what does that mean? Because obviously you need longevity and you need to be really good for a long time in order to get there.
It honestly doesn't mean as much as you think to me. What's more important to me is that I've been able to survive in the game and been able to coach the game that I care about and work with kids. That's what I wanted to do. So if you survive long enough and you want to do it long enough, that means you're successful enough to accumulate some victories. You know what I mean? So I think it just happens with the longevity if you're successful. And we've been competitive enough at our school to have accumulated some victories. We're competitive, hopefully, each and every year. Whether we get a title, that's a bonus, But it's the competition that I think that any competitor is really looking to do each and every, making the kids better each and every day. Actually, I enjoy the process of getting kids ready in January all the way through the summer to the season. I like to see the growth. And if we get there and we're lucky enough to stay healthy, then maybe we'll have a shot at victory.
Scott, the postseason games, we're calling them now. Up until last week, we called them the potential pod games. Now we're calling them the postseason scheduled games. Shore Conference did you guys a little favor. They gave you two great games, Central, Middletown, South. I mean, until Southern took care of Central last week, both of those teams were undefeated, and there were going to be challenges. Tell us a little bit about that.
And Central also, I mean, that's a big rivalry, former Thanksgiving Day game.
Of course, Central's a big rivalry game. They're a big, tough team. They're strong. We played them last year. A lot of the same guys we're going to see again. Ant Musso, Chase Gumbrick, they're dudes. We have to look out for them. But, I think it's nothing that our team can't handle. We have a solid offensive line, and that's all I got to say.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think you're really looking forward to being in the middle there this week and chasing down Chase Gumbrick, who happens to be the leading rusher in the Shore.
Yeah, it's going to be a cat and mouse game, and I look forward to it. I like playing higher level competition. I like, of course, I love playing Central, and I'd love to put a hurting on, Pinelands and Barnegat, but I love playing higher competition games. And
I love his attitude, no mercy.
Yeah.
We're taking the spiritually, putting a hurting on the rivalry teams. I love that.
He's the type of kid you want in the middle there, running your defense.
Just let me elaborate on that for a second, especially with the postseason games coming up. Now, obviously, the Shore Conference's goal was to give everyone competitive games, and those are some good ones right there. And a chance for you guys to. You win both those games, all of a sudden you're jumping up high in playoffs, and no matter what happens in them, it's going to prepare you there. I mean, have you guys almost looked at it as this is kind of the start of the playoffs in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's just our team's constantly growing, and this is another opportunity for us to be battle-tested again and to grow as a team. We trust each other to do their jobs, and it's just another chance to put our trust in our teammates and hopefully come out with a victory and grow as a team.
Well, guys, always a pleasure talking Lacey football. Again, like I said, you guys are one of the traditional programs in the Shore. When you think of Lacey, you think of something. You think of, what you guys are. You have an identity. I think everyone knows that, and I know you take a lot of pride in that, the tradition that has been built ever since you started day one at Lacey, and still the same tradition. So, again, it's great covering your teams, Coach, and I'm sure you guys are eager to get these next two games in. Have some success.
Well, it's the only game that we're really, or that I'm really concentrating on is Central. I mean, I don't even know if we'll be alive tomorrow. I'm working on one day at a time. So Central's the next game, and they're great. They're a great football team. They're doing outstanding this year, so it's going to be a tough game. But we're going to try to get ready for it.
Coach, Scott, thank you very
You're
much for
welcome.
coming down.
Thank you.
That's Lou Versillo of Lacey and Scott Stevens. They're outstanding senior. We thank those guys for coming on. We'll take a quick break, and right after that, talking Southern Regional Rams football. You're watching the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
One, two, three, family!
Back here at the Office Restaurant and Lounge in Toms River for the Week 8 Varsity Link Coaches Corner. For more from Varsity Link and what it is, make sure you go to www.varsitylink.com or download the Varsity Link app on the App Store or the Google Play Store. What it is, it's the Athletes Social Media Network. Helps athletes get recruited, helps coaches in the recruiting process. Those guys doing a great job over there with some innovative things in the age of social media, which is hard to do. It seems like everything's been done already. So go check those guys out, varsitylink.com. We thank our guests from Lacey. Right now, we go a little bit more south in Ocean County, and we welcome in our friends from Southern Regional, head coach Chuck Donahue Sr. and senior two-way standout Nate Committee. Guys, thanks again for coming up, making the drive on a Wednesday night, and talking some football with us, where it actually, maybe not today, but it's starting to feel like football season with the weather.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate it very much.
So you guys, last week, big one, 17-14 win over Central. It was a much-needed win. They were undefeated. It's a rivalry game. You guys had lost 2 straight, so kind of a lot going on within that game. And to come out with a win, I know, was huge. So, Chuck, I'll start with you. Just, it's Central, so it's a big game no matter when it's played. But the circumstances that I just talked about, trying to stop a little bit of a losing streak there. And then coming in with a hard-fought win, which I'm sure you guys knew it was going to be a tough game. So I'm sure you got to be proud of. It was an all-phases win, too. I mean, special teams provided the deciding points, and you guys played well on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, we needed it really bad. We knew they were strong, physically strong team. We knew they were fundamentally sound. They do the things you need to do. They block and they tackle really well. Jared's going to do an outstanding job there with that program. And this is his first year, it's his second year, but it's his first year with the weight program and all those other kind of things. And that's the kind of a team that we think we are, fundamentally sound, and we're going to block and tackle, and we get after it in January like everybody else does. And it was a win that we desperately needed. We really did, because we had 2 tough ones, 2 tough losses.
In the Rams 4-2 now, number 8 in the latest Jeep Store Shore Sports Network top 10. So, yeah, certainly a big win.
Nate, you've got one of the more outstanding running backs in the Shore, in Jaden Brown. How much satisfaction do you get leading him up and through those holes?
I mean, I love it. I love every part of it. When he scores, we all score. I love knowing when he gets a big run, I did my job. I protected him through the hole. And then, he's got breakaway speed. So he gets those first 3 yards, no one's catching up to him.
Yeah, he's had an outstanding year so far. I want to say 930 yards, 12 touchdowns. Let's see if I remember that right.
Yep,
I did. Look at
that's
that.
it.
Memory's still there. But, sometimes at the beginning of the season, we'll talk to you guys during the previews, and we think a team has an identity. Sometimes it doesn't go that way. Like the way you wanted your team to be, I think the way everyone thought your team was going to be, exactly what you guys have been. I mean, you have run the ball. You've run it at everybody. You've run on everybody, win or loss. And your quarterback's able to make some plays in the passing game when it's had to. But just how about going into the season, knowing what you have personnel-wise with Jaden and all-shore running back, yourself as fullback, a big offensive line, and saying, hey, this is who we are. We're going to go out and we're going to run it right at you. And like I said, you've done it on everybody from Middletown South to Manalapan to Central.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good feeling. We just go out there. Teams know what we're doing, and our mindset is just stop it. Like, here's what we have. Come and stop it. I think our O-line averages 6'4", 250. Take away our center, who's 5'2". I think everyone else is 6'5" on the line. So if you can stop us, then more power to you.
Center's always the shortest guy. Yeah. He's got to be nimble and move. But Chuck, and to that same point, I mean, this isn't. I mean, it's pretty easy to figure out what you guys are going to be good at with the personnel you have, and they've lived up to that no matter the opponent. So, calling the game and game planning, it's got to be pretty easy knowing you have those certain guys there week in, week out.
Yeah, I think they've settled really well into their roles, and our roles are not real complicated, but they've settled into the roles, and I think Nate said it very well. He's a team football player. He represents us well on both sides of the ball. I think he's somebody, when you talk about game plan, you have to prepare for him as a pass receiver. The defensive ends are going to have to take him on. Linebackers are going to have to take him on. We've been blessed with having Jaden for the same amount of years that we did Nate. They've kind of developed together. They trust each other. They believe in each other. They're our leaders, and up front, those kids up front have done a good job because I mean they're getting. We know what people have to do to stop us. We get a lot of pressure up front. We get a lot of blitz. We get a lot of 8-man fronts and stuff like that. So we've got to create some openings, and the offensive line has done that, and we felt that they could, and we've stayed, knock on wood, relatively healthy to this point.
Chuck, I know you heard our interview with Lou, and I asked him about Keith Elias, okay? Let's go back to Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning. I know what you were doing, okay? You were not looking at films, but you were watching the game in London, okay? And you saw one of the top tight ends in the league right now, what he's developed into. How much satisfaction do you get and the rest of the staff to watch Mike Gesicki and see what he's been doing?
Well, the biggest thing about Mike is Mike has not forgotten where he came from. He's back here every summer. He spends time with our team. He spends time with our youth in our camps and things like that. Obviously, we're very, very proud of him. He's handled himself as a professional. He's gotten better every single year. Outstanding, time at Penn State. So, I mean, what else can you say? I think he is one of the best tight ends in the league, and he certainly has an upside to him. He's athletic, as everyone knows. He's capable of making, great catches. He's a true professional. I get to talk to him, almost every week. We share a text or something like that, and like I said, we're very proud because of the way that Southern is in his blood, and he still comes back.
Yep.
And not to be forgotten also is your other NFL player, and that's Clark Harris, who's been the Bengals long snapper for, it feels like, almost 2 decades. And Clark had a little bit of a viral moment on the internet when they showed him on the sideline with his mustache and his long hair, and people were like, who is this guy? Yeah. And everyone was responding, hey, it's Clark Harris. He's been the Bengals long snapper for like 15 years. So that's another NFL player, and I know you take a lot of pride in that. He was an outstanding tight end for you guys as well. Went on to have a really great career at Rutgers, and learn how to long snap and look where it might take you.
The funny thing about him is when he was a senior, our punter couldn't catch his snaps. And that's the truth. So he ends up covering punts, and then went to Rutgers and got back to long snapping. But senior year, we had to move him from snapper because, like I said, our punter, too much. The ball got on too fast.
That's great.
And we had to make a move. And matter of fact, the kids, Zach, that took his job, went up to Lock Haven and snapped up at Lock Haven. So he was a good snapper too.
And one other, can't forget Glenn Carson too. Who's an outstanding linebacker.
Yeah, and a long snapper.
Yes.
And long snapped at Penn State.
And had some time with the Cardinals as well in the NFL for a little bit. So
Nate,
you guys have a great NFL tradition there.
Yeah. Nate, two-way player. Okay, we talked about your exploits in the backfield, blocking for Jaden and scoring yourself. But let's talk about defense. I just have a feeling you love playing defense.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a defensive-minded kid. In basketball, I want to say I'm one of the best defenders out there too. Lacrosse, I'm obviously going to Bellarmine to play defense, so it's in my blood to just go out there and hit kids.
We talked about that with, of course, Bobby here covers the lacrosse season down in Louisville, Kentucky, right?
Yes, sir.
Go down there and buy a racehorse while you're there. Right?
I don't think he's coming home with a horse.
Get the stable.
That'd be something, huh?
I got to tell Dad to get the stables ready.
Hey, Dad, look what I got.
But anyway, Nate, coming off the edge, right?
Yes, sir.
Defensive end.
Yep.
I mean, your eyes light up when you're getting close to that quarterback.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just see the quarterback, and that's it. Nothing else goes through my mind. It's like I have to make a play. That's all that I think about is right then in that moment.
When, at least when I think of Southern, I think of course, guys like Mike Gesicki and Clark Harris and Glenn Carson. But, I think of a team that is kind of centered around playing tough defense. You guys have been like that for a long time with Coach Abato as your defensive coordinator. Just describe that philosophy and the mentality that you guys try to play with game in and game out.
I mean, Coach Abato does a great job every week game planning. We go in every week knowing we all have our assignments. Don't play hero ball. Don't do more than you're taught to do. Go out, do your assignment. 11 guys play as a unit. Will be successful on the field.
And we've talked about Jaden as a running back, but he's a really good defensive player too. Yeah. I know you guys try to give him a blow a little bit on defense, especially when he's having upwards of almost 30 carries a game. But I feel like every game I've covered of you guys in his career, he's made at least one play on defense that makes you go, wow. I mean, that he could be a linebacker at the next level potentially.
The one thing I'll say particularly about Nate and Jaden is highlight films really don't do these guys service. You got to watch them play a whole football game to really understand the kind of players they are. They're fundamentally sound. They make plays every single game on both sides of the ball. Both kids make plays. Their technique is almost flawless, and they're what coaches call football players. I think Ed, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yes. They're football players, and every single play, they have the potential of making a play, and they don't try and do it. It happens. They have the instincts, they have the technique, they have the desire to excel, and they're really good defensive players.
Coach, this week it's a different animal for you, okay? It's speed, it's size, it's outstanding coaching. Donovan Catholic, tell us a little bit about him.
Well, I think
I just summed it up.
That's a pretty good scout report right there. No, they're an explosive football team.
Yes.
We understand they're an explosive team. We're going to have to tackle. I think number one was the case last year also when we played them. I thought we did a good job tackling in that game. We got to sustain blocks, and the biggest thing we have to do is cut back on penalties. We have really hurt ourselves with penalties this year at inopportune times. And we've got to eliminate those things and stay in the football game. They do a lot of things really well. They run the football well. Their quarterback is a time bomb. At any point he can go. He can throw the football. They have kids that catch it. They're going to spread us. We know they're going to spread us. And we have to be ready for that. We've had a good week of practice. I think the kids understand their assignments, what they have to do, and we're going to have to execute the best we have executed all year. And we're also going to, like I say, cover kicks, all the little things that get lost in the shuffle. That has hurt us this year, and penalties have hurt us. And if we can straighten those things out this week, and I think we will, we'll be in for a good football game.
Confidence is obviously so important for an individual and just the team as a whole. I know getting the win last week was huge because you snapped that 2-game losing streak, and now you can win to Donovan. Last year, you guys, same scenario. I think it was a midseason game. You went into Donovan. They were a heavy favorite. You guys played them well. I want to say it was like a one-score game. Given you look at the schedule you guys have played this year, Middletown South, number 4 team in the shore. You guys lost them by a touchdown. Manalapan, same thing, number 5, 6 points. Like, those games could have easily went another way. And you guys know you can play with Donovan because it's the same kind of team as last year. So is that in your minds, like, hey, we know we can go in there and play? Like Coach Donnie said, it's more of a matter of executing and doing those things you need to do to win.
Oh, definitely. I mean, after last year, being up at halftime and giving it away in the fourth quarter, something didn't sit right after last year. And then, losing, we hurt ourselves in those 2 losses we had. If we take away half our penalty yards, we're in the red zone double the amount of times we're scoring, winning both games. I think we're going to go up there to Toms River on Friday, and nothing else without a W coming home.
And you guys, again, the schedule you guys have played in the Colonial Division, like, you were seeing good teams every week. Do you feel that, like, where you get to this point in the season and you've seen good teams and you've been in tough battles and you just feel like you're ready for whatever kind of moment you may see on the field?
Oh, yeah. We've seen every situation possible. We've played spread teams, run teams, triple option teams. We're ready. We all have our assignments this week. We're going to go out there and Toms River on Friday and get a win.
That is very true. I mean, going from a team and not in consecutive weeks, but a Middletown South who's going to maybe go hurry up and spread, or Manalapan is traditional, and then 2 weeks before that you get home they'll run in the split back here. You guys really have seen everything, huh?
Yeah, we have, and it was old-fashioned beer, man. It was old-fashioned inside zone and outside zone and all that stuff, or inside veer and outside veer, and we caught a break in having a bye week before Homedale, and we could spend a week concentrating on that option instead of just having 2 or 3 days of practice. And that certainly helped us in that ball game. But no, we've seen good, tough running backs. We faced good offense and defensive lines. All the things. We faced good quarterbacks. We faced good running backs. The things that Donovan has, we have faced. And like I said, we have to go out there and control the clock a little bit and take care of time and take care of the grass we capture and not give it back. There's nothing worse than gaining 10 yards and then giving it back. And we can't do those kind of things. And, we got to run to the ball, and we have to tackle well. And I think that we will do that.
Nate, real quick before we let you guys go, but how about the fans in the stands? Last year, you were playing to mom and dad. That's about it. Now you've got a packed bleachers and packed kids.
I mean, it's awesome. It's nothing like running out of the tunnel Friday night and, seeing – I think we had upwards of 700 students at the game last Friday, or the last home game, Middletown South. So, I mean, even at Central, we had 400 kids, which we filled the stands at in the away game. So it's nothing like having the whole school, and Southern's a huge school, like 2,200 kids. Yep. Everyone is behind us every week. Teachers who I've never had, students who are my brother's age, sophomores coming up to me, like, wishing me good luck. So it's a great atmosphere at school.
And I can attest to that because having covered the Manalapan game, I think at one point I turned around. It was like you guys had like a pink out that night, and it was like, whoa, it was right in front of your face. So, yeah, that's obviously awesome. Those guys coming out. Chuck, before we let you guys go, the one player I wanted to ask you about was your quarterback, Nolan Schubiger, because I know coming into the season, that was a question mark in the sense where you knew what you had up front, you knew what you had in the backfield, and you knew that was going to be your bread and butter. The question is, when we need our quarterback to make some plays, is he going to be able to do it? And, no, he hasn't been perfect this year, but he's had some games where you need him to make some plays, and he's done that. So just how about his development at the position and giving you guys the things you need when you need it?
Yeah, I think he's a kid that's gotten better every week. I think he has done that. Yeah, he made a good first down run the other night. He made a couple critical passes on the drive at the end of the first half that we went ahead. He is a kid that the players are rallying around. I think they play hard for him. I think that's the number one thing that a quarterback needs. He needs his team to believe in him and play hard for him. And Nolan is bright. He understands the game plan. He understands what we're trying to do. We trust him, especially in first and second down to throw the ball. We really trust him in those kind of situations, and he's been able to handle those throws this year. And I think his teammates play for him, and I think that's what any quarterback needs, the very first thing before anything else.
Sounds like he manages the game very well.
Yeah, I think he does. He's got to put up with me. That's you got to that's not the easiest thing in the world, and he's handled that really well. really well. But he's our quarterback, and like I say, I think the kids do play for him. They want him to be successful. Mm-hmm. He wants to be successful. He doesn't want to make a mistake. He's real good at making a mistake and putting it behind him. He's very good at that. And I think that's another characteristic of a quarterback that's important. Move on.
Chuck, when we had Lou on, we talked to him about his long career and getting 300 wins. And this is your 48th season coaching as a head coach in high school football. You got 268 wins before Southern. You were at St. Joe's Hamilton, Buna, Haddon Heights. When you first started, could you ever think you'd be almost a half a century later, you'd still be coaching football and doing it for a team that is playing at a high level also?
No, I mean, I'm looking back, you look back and when people ask you questions, you look back at it, and absolutely not. I feel extremely fortunate. I've been, blessed with good health, and I have like Lou, I have a desire to be working from January. December is recruiting and all that kind of stuff, and you're really away from the kids. But I look forward to January. I think once you don't look forward to January and the grind is coming ahead and you don't enjoy that part of it. That my family and friends have been very supportive of me over the years. I've been at good places. I've coached, hundreds of great kids. And the biggest thing is, and I've talked to Lou about it, it's when you coach this long, it's the fear of not coaching. That's really, how you're going to handle things, and you're locked into a schedule, day by day by day, and you just don't know how you're going to react to that, and if that is a fear I have, of just now what do I do, and not really having anything except coaching. But it's been a great life, as Lou said. There's nothing like being around kids. There's nothing like it. Watching them develop and grow. And
you guys have had a good amount of success over the years, but what stands out more is the way you run your program. You run it with class. That comes from the top down, from you to all your assistants and your coaches. That's just, you talk about an identity of a program. I think that's what I think when I think of Southern. Just the way you run it professionally. In a way that is fun to be around. It's always fun to cover your teams, and it was again tonight. Great talking to you guys.
Well,
and thank you for coming down.
Yeah, appreciate you having us. I really do.
That's Chuck Donahue Sr. and Nate Committee from Southern Regional. Those guys, a big one coming up on Friday night against Donovan Catholic. We thank those guys for coming down. We'll take one more quick break. We'll come back, talk a little bit about the Week 8 games coming up. You're watching the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network.
One, two, three, family!
Back here at the Office Restaurant and Lounge in Toms River. Just a few minutes left here in this week's Varsity Link Coaches Corner. So we'll turn the page to Week 8. We've already touched on some of the games, but we'll run down the list now. The top 10 teams. Number 1, Red Bank Catholic, newly minted. Number 1, Red Bank Catholic. They will travel west, take on 5th-ranked Manalapan. That's a good game. Yeah, a good test for both teams, a big test for Manalapan. Just trying to see if they can knock off the Casey's. And then you have number 4 Middletown South traveling to Borden Stadium, take on number 2 Rumson. That should be an excellent game because those two teams, it's not really a rivalry, but it's a proximity rivalry. I mean, you go right over that Oceanic Bridge, and there, boom, you're in Locust, you're in Middletown South territory. And those two teams have played some really good games as of late, Ed. So I think that one has the potential to, low key have some fireworks in that game. Probably not a high scoring game, but I could see that being a dramatic one.
I totally agree. I mean, I know they've had couple weeks to prepare. So. I'm just also looking forward to that Manasquan at Borough game. I think Borough, 6-0 undefeated, now steps up to the big time in the next couple of weeks.
They do.
Facing schools that are bigger than they are in Manasquan and also Middletown North the following week.
About the same size, close.
Well,
but Middletown
yeah,
North definitely a bigger school.
Exactly. We'll see. They've been wanting to get into that top 10. You got them into the top 10.
I
happy
had no choice.
For Brian Staub.
They can give a little bit of a thanks to Southern because they knocked Central from the ranks of the unbeaten.
Exactly.
So that was the opportunity.
Made it easy.
To get Portborough in there. Hey, the number one scoring offense in the Shore. They're ringing up everyone they play.
Yeah.
A little bit different test this week, but that should be a great one. I'll be there at Al Sainer Field Friday night. You guys will be there. That's our block game day countdown game of the week. So make sure you find the Shore Sports Network SUV. Find Steve, find Ed, sign up to win dinner for 6 at the Butcher's Block in Long Branch. Comes with limousine service. Those guys shooting for a winter opening, so maybe sometime around the holidays.
Yep.
Without that, a reservation, good luck.
Heard, Bob, by the way.
We know, Tommy, I don't even think we can get in there until the summer. So
Just heard, by the way, I've been replaced as the limo driver for that dinner.
Look, I'm
out.
Not for nothing, but it's probably the right decision. So,
probably.
Also, number 6 Wall hosting Middletown North. That's a sneaky good game.
Yeah.
In Middletown North 5-1. The only loss is by 3 points to Lacey. They had that dramatic win. Certainly a test going up against what is a battle-tested Wall team. That's the last 3-3 team, maybe in the state, you want to be playing in the postseason.
I was just going to say, why do I believe that Wall at 3-3 and have struggled most of the year, injuries and whatever, will make a run and win a state championship?
To do that, they're going to have to get through Rumson.
I understand
but
that.
I could
I understand
absolutely
that. I could see
that
it
be
happening.
the sectional final
Yep.
if the seeds play out that way. And then, as we mentioned, 8th-ranked Southern will be at Donovan Catholic on Friday night. Central Lacey, that's an interesting one. Freehold Holmdel. There's a bunch of intriguing matchups here, and really a Friday-heavy slate. Only 2 games on Saturday.
Yeah.
That's Point Beach, Keensburg, Marlboro, Toms River South. So my biggest, I wouldn't say fear, but my concern is that we're going to get through these 2 weeks, and the top 10 is going to be impossible to put together. Almost have to throw names up in the air. It's going to be like when they see a wrestling tournament, you just throw all the triangles out and just kind of pick something there. I'll be doing it by UPR or something like that. But in any event, some great football coming your way in Week 8. Next week, we'll be back to talk about it. We'll be at River Rock Restaurant and Marina Bar in Brick, breaking down the Week 8 games and looking ahead to Week 9. But until then, I'm Bob Adders for Ed Sarluca and Steve Meyer and Tom Tremblay. You've been watching the Varsity Link Coaches Corner on the Shore Sports Network. Thanks to everyone here at the Office Lounge and Tom's River for the hospitality. We'll see you guys again next week.